Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. And of course, we are walking on this beautiful trail. It is a great day to take a walk, but more importantly, I had some stuff on my mind that I wanted to talk to you guys about. And it was due to a recent coaching call that I had. So I was coaching somebody the other day and they were in their 30s. And of course, to respect their situation and, their personal stuff, I won't say their name, of course, but I'll kind of talk a little bit about the subject, and hopefully this is a good financial lesson that we can all learn, especially since if you are new to this channel, you know that we focus on all things engineering, technology, and finances. And specifically, like I said today, we'll talk about that finance aspect. So here's the scoop. Somebody is in their 30s and we'll call him Jack. So Jack is in his 30s, he's Hispanic. And the interesting thing is Jack started talking to me about his situation from a financial perspective. He was telling me how he was very, very stressed. And so I was asking him, what are the stressors in his life? And it's very interesting to me because we started going over his budget. We started going over a couple of things that were pulling on his wallet financially. And one of the things that I started to realize is that he had a big drain when it comes to taking care of family. Now guys, let me know in the comments below, is this really like a Hispanic thing only? Because I see that a lot in our culture, especially folks that know me. I am Hispanic. And so this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have the conversation today. And it almost seems like, specifically in our culture, I don't know about any other cultures, but our parents or the people that came before us, they failed to plan, and their plan was to have the children, you and I, take care of them. Not to say that that was a horrible decision, right? Sometimes they don't know any better, and sometimes you get what you get. But it almost seems to me like the parents never really thought about what the implications of that decision. So after talking a little bit more and going into the details, I realized that a good portion was going into taking care of his aging parents. So one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation is because I myself, being so close in age to this person, this hits home for me a little bit in the sense that I also have to think about my parents as well as they continue to age. But the interesting thing is, and that's why I bring this topic up today, is I almost feel like the people that came before us, they never bothered to plan what their future looks like from a financial perspective. And it almost seems like your kids are your financial plan, which is obviously not a great financial plan. And so as I was coaching him, I started to realize that he has so many expenses going on from a day-to-day perspective. When we get into our 20s, specifically late 20s, early 30s, somewhere around that time frame, people normally start to settle down. They normally start to have a family, and they normally start to buy the farm, as they say. So meaning that's when you really start spending money. Consumerism is ultra high. You have to buy a car or some form of transportation. I mean, I say it all the time on the channel, cars are one of the fastest way to go broke. But of course, people are buying cars. They're buying, whatever they need in order to keep up with the Joneses. So you have the car payment. Then you got to have some place to live, right? Some place to lay your head, and ultimately as well provide shelter for your family. And as I mentioned, this is a time frame where people are settling down. So you're having kids, you're forming your own family, and then you buy a house. And of course, you need to compare yourself with other people. A 2-3 bedroom house is not enough because you need to be pretty much in the race with everybody else, right? You need that 5 bedroom, 4.5 bathroom house, 4,000 square foot, you name it. It's just like the car. People sign up for that payment, and there you go. You got that car payment, you got the house payment. Now, when you have kids, you start to sign them up for so many different activities. So the kids got to go to soccer, they got to go to gymnastics, they got to go to basketball, baseball, extracurriculars at schools. I'll tell you right now, when I look at some of the things that we have to buy for our kids at school, I say to myself, Jesus, ridiculous how many times you need to buy pencils and crayons for them, or notebooks, you name it. But anyways, you got those expenses, right? And you could quickly start to see how the adult life starts to get very expensive because you're starting your family, you having to buy all the things that you need to buy, And most people typically get this part wrong, right? They don't buy just what they need. They overbuy, therefore it really ties up their income. And then on top of that, you didn't know this, but this whole entire time, your parents, right, they've never prepared. And so now they're hit with the reality that their bodies are deteriorating. They can no longer work in order to generate income. So now what is the thing that's left? Well, they can rely on Social Security. And we all know Social Security is pretty much almost like a Ponzi scheme. So by the time that I would be looking to get Social Security, I don't even know if that's going to be around. But anyways, if you think about what you're going to get from a Social Security perspective, maybe a couple $1,000, maybe 1, 2, possibly 3, depending, how much you put into the system, that is not enough to live in today's day and age, especially with the increased costs of things, right? Inflation is super high at the moment. And so again, I'm coaching this person, right? And we're making the difficult decisions that, do we have the difficult conversations with the parents and let them know that, hey, there are some changes that have to happen in order to take care of them? Or do you cut out other things in your life in order to make sure that you take care of the people who came before you? Again, I'm curious, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. But I bring this topic up because we all have to face this. Even myself, when I think of my parents, right? I'm looking to help them out as much as possible, but also as well too, knowing that I do have my own family to take care of, right? I have my own kids that need to grow up. I have my own house that I need to keep in order. So it's not like, you don't want to take care of them, but at the same time too, you got to walk that nice little balance to make sure that everybody is well taken care of. And so the interesting thing that I started bringing up with this person, and I started coaching them on, I said, hey, here's what you first need to do. And I'm going to talk with you guys out loud for those people who are struggling in this area as well. But here's the first thing we need to do. The first thing is understand where your parents are from a financial perspective. It's crazy to think that all the times that I coach people, and it always comes down to the same exact problem, the budget. Nobody does their budget. Even your parents, the people who have been on this earth 50, 60, 70 years, some of them still don't know how to budget, and some of them don't even know what expenses they have in their day-to-day life. So in order to understand where you are and where you're going, you have to create that budget. So now that you know what expenses that they have currently, the next thing to understand is, let's project what their expenses are going to look like going out, right, in the future. So this might be covering your 4 walls, as I say, right? So it's your shelter, it's your food, it's your clothing, it's your transportation. What does that look like? And again, if you're in this point, meaning that, you're in a dire strait and you haven't really did much planning, you want to make sure that your 4 walls are at a minimum. You're not going to be driving a Mercedes. You're not going to be driving a BMW. You certainly are not going to go out to eat every day. So you're going to have to minimize all the expenses to make sure that you come up with a good number that will take you into retirement and many years on. Because again, the idea is to stay in retirement, not to come out of it. So now that you know exactly what expenses are going out each and every day, what are you going to plan for as far as how much money we're going to spend going forward, the next thing to do is create a plan to make sure that you live on a sustainable life going forward. And so that means taking into consideration all the sources of income that you have going in, whether that's Social Security, whether it's a part-time job, whether it's taking out some equity in places that you may have, such as your home. Consider downsizing. That's one of the biggest things that I told this person. Consider downsizing the home. Maybe they have an old 401k that they forgot about, right? Figure out what equities you have available in any particular account and factor that into your income coming in. After you've done all that and you see that there still is a shortfall, there may or may not be, but if there is a shortfall, then at this point you say to yourself, okay, the child of the aging parent, how much money can you afford to help out your parents with, right? And of course, you got to figure out what your expenses look like. You still want to make sure that you take care of your family. And then, of course, one of the biggest things that I always say is you still have to make sure that you don't end up in the same position as your parents. Again, you don't want to be put in that situation where you got to rely on your kids. So therefore, start planning now. And if that means that you got to contribute a little bit less to your parents' retirements, unfortunately, that's the case, right? You have to. So after you figure out how much you're able to contribute to your parents, then at that point you decide and say to yourself, hey, is this enough in order to get them into a sustainable living? Meaning that if they're projected to live X amount of years, can you support that contribution until they're no longer with you? Or maybe you don't want to take on that responsibility until, the end of time, right? You have to then evaluate and say, hey, can we cut on some expenses, right? How do you make sure that you cut out the expenses in order to make sure that they have a sustainable cash flow? Also, I've seen where parents sometimes, they're so used to a certain lifestyle and they don't want to change anything. So at that point, you have to think about, if it's not cutting the expenses, is there somebody who can help you, right? Maybe you're one of a couple of siblings and you got a brother or sister who can also chip in. I mean, these are all the different ways in which you can help out that aging parent. But more importantly, I think the biggest message that I want to deliver to you guys today, especially as we talk about this financial situation here, is that yes, your parents, they helped you in the sense of they gave birth to you, they took care of you, they fed you, they changed your diaper. I definitely agree with all those things. There's nothing more proud to say to your parents, hey, I love you, by taking care of them in their later years should they need to. But at the same time too, one of the things that I've noticed is that as the child grows up, they have their own responsibilities. Meaning, most likely they went to college. Actually, may or may not have gone to college, but if you did go to college, you most likely have student loans. Credit cards. A lot of people have credit card debts. It's insane to me how much I coach people and they have these credit cards that they're paying 20, 25, 29% interest on it. It's just insane to me. So you have credit card debt. You got all these car loans, right? You have all these mortgages, all these things that pull on your paycheck and make you just run on that wheel, right? That hamster wheel. You run, and you sort of never get anywhere. And then on top of that, you're put on this load of taking care of your aging family members because unfortunately, they didn't take the time out to understand how to properly plan for their retirement or how to make sure that they're prepared for when their bodies no longer allowed them to work anymore. It was a tough pill to swallow, but after we looked at his income, started to realize very quickly that he did not make enough money in order to sustain his lifestyle, also as well to take care of his family. And when I say his family, I meant he had kids, he had a wife. He obviously had a couple of things that he needed to take care of from a financial perspective. He couldn't handle that, along with taking care of his parents. I basically had to have a conversation with him and let him know that he had to tell his parents that either A, they had to sell off some assets that they have, if they have any. And again, he had to figure that out on his own because he clearly didn't know where his parents were financially. And that's actually another problem too that I see often. When you talk to your parents and you ask them, hey, where are you guys? How do you sit for today? I don't know about you, but in the Hispanic culture, I don't know if they think that we want to steal from them or we want to take everything that they've worked so hard for. It's not so much of, hey, I'm very interested in knowing what you got. It's more so of like, hey, we want to know how to prepare when the time comes, so that way we know how to handle things accordingly. There's nothing worse than you having to figure things out when the whole world is falling apart, right? You need to make sure that you're planning accordingly. But anyways, he had the task to go and figure that stuff out. But I'm pretty sure even without figuring all those things out, his budget was so tight. Like there wasn't any wiggle room. That's how I immediately knew that he had to change a lot of things, because he could not basically sustain his lifestyle and also as well put a little bit of money away for retirement. and then on top of that take care of his parents. It was very, very tough. So he's got a lot of work on his hands. I wish him the absolute best. But again, guys, I wanted to have this conversation with you, and I wanted to share what my thoughts were, given that I'm in that situation myself, in the sense that I'm of the age where I'm understanding whether my parents did a great job planning for retirement or not. And those are the conversations that we're having right now, because ultimately I have to know how much I need to pitch in, if I need to pitch in at all. They probably did a phenomenal job, who knows? So guys, let me know in the comment section below. I'm curious, is this just a Hispanic thing, right? Do you guys see this in any other culture? Like, how difficult is it to talk to your parents? I almost feel like sometimes they don't want to tell you anything because they feel that, I don't know, maybe you might steal from them or something. I don't know. Like, that's one of the big issues that I see. And then the second thing that I always see when it comes to mainly Hispanics, or I've seen this, people of color is typically what I've seen this in. They, for whatever reason, like to stick their head in the sand. I don't know what it is. It's like, it's almost like if you stick your head in the sand, all of it goes away. And in fact, actually, it just gets even worse. And it gets pretty bad until it just explodes one day. And keep in mind, you have two times the problem, right? You have your family, meaning my mom and dad. And if you're married, you got the in-laws, and that is the other problem too. So it's like, you got to make sure you're ducking and dodging from both sides of the families, which is kind of interesting. So that'll do it for this conversation, guys. If you guys are interested in more financial conversations like this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Remember, we talk all things engineering, tech, and finances, especially how they all intertwine with each other, because I say this all the time, guys, you need a big shovel. Therefore, that's the tech and the engineering side of the channel, where we talk about all those things, right? It gives you a nice big income. I've been making well over 6 figures since my early 20s, and it's been really, really awesome to give back to people and show them that path. But then, of course, the finances side, right? You got to know what to do with the money once you make it. I can't tell you how many people I worked with before that are all broke people. They make a lot of money and they don't have a penny to their name. So subscribe to the channel if you're looking to learn how to grow your income, or you're looking to save and invest that income. We talk about money here as well. Now, if you enjoyed this conversation, go ahead and give me a like for the video, as it helps the channel grow. And make sure you share this with a family member or friend and start having those difficult conversations, because I'll tell you what, not having them is worse, so much worse. You need to make sure that you're having those difficult conversations and letting them know that you love them by having those difficult conversations. And lastly, before I let you guys go, if you're interested in having a financial coaching session as well, links will be in the description below. Again, I've coached hundreds and hundreds of people already at this point, and especially to their financial freedoms. So if you want a coach to bounce your ideas off of to see if you're on the right track, I'll leave a link in the description. Make sure you guys go ahead and check that out, and I will see everybody in the next video.